I'm Dr. Lindsay Coble.
Dr. Noelle Crosby, and we're the Sound Sisters, and this is the Hearing Diaries. Today, our guest is Dr. Sara Downs. She's the co-founder and clinic director of the Hearing Wellness Center in Duluth, Minnesota. Or should I say Minnesota? Sara has spent more than 2 decades helping patients with tinnitus and sound sensitivity and has developed an integrative approach to tinnitus care that looks at the whole person, which I've actually had the honor of sitting in a class with her. So I learned a lot about that. So welcome, Sara. We're glad you're here and can't wait to hear a little bit more about your program. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into audiology and what led you to the focus of tinnitus? You can start small and just tell us how you got into audiology because I'm sure
Okay.
that's a lot.
Yeah. So I actually, when in my undergrad, I was studying both psychology and communication disorders. So
Mhm.
when it came time to decide whether I wanted to be an audiologist, a speech pathologist, or a psychologist, I had to pick where I wanted to go to
Mhm.
grad school. And well, as most audiologists would say, I knew that speech path was not my
Yeah.
path.
That
but
was out.
but when I had learned about tinnitus, excuse me, I thought, well, this is just a really cool intersection
Mhm.
you know, um, of audiology and mental health coaching and psychology principles. And so, I, when I would go out into graduate school, that's what I really wanted to do my thesis on. I really
Mhm.
wanted to do my thesis on um, something to do with tinnitus. And I went to Dr. Jastreboff's course while I was still in graduate school. And I got back, and my thesis advisor said, this would take forever. Tinnitus treatment takes so long. We don't have time. So if you look it up, my paper that I published after that was about educational audiology. It was not about tinnitus.
Oh,
But as soon as I
interesting.
graduated,
Dreams were crushed.
yeah,
So
streams
that
were
was
crushed. But
way back when. And when did you, so you must have graduated with your master's,
I
right?
did.
Yeah.
Yes. Boy, am I dating myself now,
Well, I was right there with you. And
Yeah,
so you had to do a project, or I
I
ended
did
up
go.
where mine was a
Mhm.
project, not a thesis. But
Yeah.
but back then we didn't really talk about tinnitus much. So you must have really, had a big passion for it.
Yeah, it was really treating tinnitus and thinking that there was something that we could actually do was
Mhm.
fairly new at that time. And so my whole career, I've understood that there's something we can do for tinnitus, and
Love that.
I've been trying to work on that and improve patient care my whole career. And
Oh,
Mhm.
I
so,
love it.
I love that. And so neat that you have kind of the psychology background too. I mean, I think that is such the missing piece when we talk about people who are interested in tinnitus, but we don't get that in grad school. You
Right.
don't get that extra, mental health counseling, psychology counseling. So awesome that you had that
right.
from undergrad. You kind of knew you had
Right.
that
And to be
interest.
fair, a psychology in undergrad, we don't get any clinical experience. It's all
Yeah,
books.
could
It's
be
all
better.
books.
Yeah, yeah,
But
But you had the
having
heart
an
for
understanding,
it.
yeah, and having an
yeah.
understanding of their underlying theories and principles really it helped.
Mhm. I love that. Let's talk about you've developed what you call the integrative tinnitus treatment. What does that mean, and how does it differ from more traditional approaches that maybe we've all heard of?
Yeah, so as you can hear, my original background was in tinnitus retraining therapy. That's, a lot of people's onboarding
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
tinnitus care, right? And
Hmm.
and what I noticed in clinic was that it takes a really long time. And patient, it has to adhere to a protocol for a really long time. And a lot of people just kind of, I was having a hard time keeping people engaged in the treatment. And also some of the advice that we are giving people is, manage your stress and, try to relax,
Uh-huh.
and around tinnitus. And what I didn't know at the time is we're dealing with when people have intrusive tinnitus, we're dealing with a person who has a dysregulated nervous system around their tinnitus. Maybe not for other things, but around their tinnitus, their
Mhm.
nervous system has some dysregulation. So um, that was really good advice we were giving people: relax, meditate, do all these things. It will help with your treatment outcomes, but it with integrative tinnitus treatment, we are actually working it into the protocol and doing it in a very specific timing that engages the nervous system and your auditory system at the right time in the context of cognitive reframing of your tinnitus. So we're tinnitus is a multi system condition. And so if we only treat one part at a time, we're going to get limited results. But when we're doing it in a way that supports all three systems that are impacted at the same time, we can get some really good and faster habituation results.
Well, I feel like you said, I feel like we tell people, relax, manage your stress. And I feel like when you have that really difficult tinnitus patient in front of you, they can't even comprehend what that means to manage their stress. So it sounds like you're diving a little more into that, of giving them concrete ways to help themselves, which is awesome.
Yeah. So in about 2015, I finished my certification in mind body medicine. And so that was a program where I teach people self-care skills. So it's for life, really. I mean, when I went to the class, what I was I guess maybe surprised to find out was I wasn't there to teach people how to regulate their nervous systems. I was there to learn it for myself first.
Oh, right.
The whole model is that the clinician and the facilitator is actually also a participant. And so I had to learn to do these things for myself. I had to learn how to do breath work. I had to learn how to do biofeedback and a bunch of different self-care skills that I could pass on and work with my patients and have them utilize them. Because once that's where integrative tinnitus treatment kind of came out of, is once I started adding these things and having people do it in the right timing, I saw I was only seeing people 3 to 4 visits, and then they just turned into hearing aid patients, or or I didn't see them. They didn't need me anymore, which was really great. That means that they're better, right? In fact, my patient just this morning, it was her 3rd visit, and I said, "Tell me how it's going with sound therapy." And she said, already after, now we're about 8 weeks into her treatment, she said, my sound therapy is there when I need it, and it feels really good to listen to it, but my tinnitus isn't bothering me as much, so I haven't been using it very much anymore. And I'm like, and that's a pretty typical patient. She's not a complicated tinnitus patient. Most tinnitus patients are actually not complicated, super complex. They just need to have that reset.
Yeah. I'm wondering, how did you figure out, first of all, to do that with the mind body, and then, the class that you took for that, but then how did you figure out how you should do one step, and when you introduced that, or I guess it was probably a lot of trial and error, but just talk to us a little bit about that.
Right. It was, I would say, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I would say that as much as I'm responsible for writing up the integrative tinnitus treatment protocol and active sound therapy, I learned it from my patients. I learned it by trying things and seeing what was working. And then I started noticing a pattern of what was working with patients, that, when I have them use their sound therapy at the right time and they regulate their nervous system while they're doing their sound therapy, they're done. I always let them break up with me when they feel ready and their nervous system, they've got their tinnitus handled. I always tell them, you tell me when we're done, and we're just doing this retrospective look back at my clinical data, and we found it's about 9.6 weeks that patients I get broken up with after that, about that.
Short term.
No long-term relationships with you.
No, people don't want to hang around with me that long. But so I think I really learned it by watching what was happening with interviewing my patients and seeing what was working, and then trying and then it's actually, it was when they started talking about the vagus nerve and bimodal work that's being done by Susan Shore and Hubert Lim. I was thinking, what I'm doing is actually bimodal too.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we're using actually multimodal, right? So we're doing cognitive things, cognitive reframing, but we're also doing this bottom up work, this breath work, which we know that breath work, especially like a 4-4-8 breath, we know that that is a parasympathetic system activator. That activates your relaxation response. And so I started thinking, if going back to Pavlov's dog, if you remember, classical conditioning, because the part of our nervous system that labels tinnitus as a threat, through a process called neuroception, that's preconscious. So we can't just think it a thought and think, hey, can you relabel the tinnitus as a neutral so I can habituate? It doesn't work that way. If you can think those thoughts, and those thoughts are important to think, and we do want to reframe. But if your nervous system is still setting off an alarm for your tinnitus, your body is primary. Your body's signal is primary. So your nervous system, if it says danger, defense system stays on. No matter how many times we tell ourselves, but it's just, tinnitus is just a benign artifact of a hearing loss or whatever. If your nervous system is sending a different message, then you're going to have that defensive response, which means that we focus on our tinnitus. That's just biologically what happens when we're in a defensive thing. We focus on the thing that we're defensive against. And so I started to think, okay, how can I communicate with this preconscious part of the nervous system to give it a signal for safety? Well, the one physiological, because that part of our nervous system reads physiological cues, right? The one physiological cue that we have cognitive control over is our breath. So when we are in a defensive state, we breathe shallow, we breathe quicker. And when we are in a relaxed state, we breathe more deeply, we breathe slower. So we can signal to our body cues of safety. And so I usually use the 4-4-8 breath just because it's so easy to teach at first, in through the nose for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out of the mouth for 8 seconds. That longer exhale signals to the body that we're safe and relaxed. And after about 2 minutes of that kind of breathing, our nervous system will shift into parasympathetic.
That quickly.
Right. And so what I started doing is when people notice, I taught them to notice when their body was giving them a defense signal. So my shoulders are tight. They're up by my ears. I'm breathing shallow. My tinnitus is in my focus. That's the moment we do sound therapy. That's the moment that we turn on we do our breath work to shift the nervous system out of defense into parasympathetic. And then we're using, one of my colleagues told me not to say classical conditioning because that's such a layered and nuanced term, but we're using this way of training the preconscious part of our nervous system using the language it speaks, right? It's using that physiological cue.
When we talk about looking at the whole person of somebody who walks in with tinnitus, what factors beyond the ear have you found that really affect tinnitus?
Yeah, so my intake is very lengthy. For people that have been to my class, they know I have a 10-page intake form about tinnitus. But I really want to know, is it hearing? Is it tinnitus? Which one is really actually the primary driver of your frustrations? But I also ask about sleep and mental health and what other if
stress,
there's been,
stress,
trauma.
Trauma.
What else is going on in your life
that
might need to be addressed by us, or if I need to make those referrals, because there are things that an audiologist doesn't do.
Totally.
And we need support from our other colleagues in other areas, colleges or ENTs, and really making sure that we've checked off all of the the reasons that people might need a referral for a medical condition and things like that. But really, I like to use the TFI because it's the TFI is a functional impact of tinnitus, and it breaks it down into different subcategories. And you can actually, while you're doing treatment, really see how things are progressing. for different areas that are being impacted.
Right.
And so if they're not scoring high on a sleep, I'm not going to do a lot of sleep hygiene counseling, but
Yeah. Finding what the triggers are.
I like the TFI. I think it's really helpful.
Yeah. Very good. Well, let's talk about, even for myself, I've been to lots of tinnitus training. I've seen tinnitus patients, but still sometimes I feel unsure about what to say to the patient when they're in front of me. So, what advice would you give to audiologists who want to be more confident about helping these patients using those kinds of techniques if they've been trained in them?
Right. I would say the best thing you can do for your tinnitus patients is be an incredible listener. A lot of times patients have been telling other providers, their primary or whoever, about their tinnitus, and they may not have been given the right kind of support, or maybe, unfortunately, have still been being told that there's nothing that can be done.
Right.
So, I
hate that.
I do
hate
too. It's my
hearing.
least favorite thing when I hear it. I said, "Who told you that? I'm going to write them a note. I'm writing them an email after."
How dare you say that to somebody?
I got another one from you. No, stop telling people that. But being a really good listener really helps you know how to help, if that makes sense. And finding out where is the tinnitus being intrusive, so that you can help them find their own way. And I am really
help them find their own way. See, I love that.
Yeah, I'm really a proponent of patient empowerment and letting them be the leader in this, because I can't come home to all my patients, and they need to be able to take care of themselves. And nervous system regulation is one of those things that we really can't do for another person. We can co-regulate and we can help them in the moment and help, we can lend our energy and be a good model. But at the end of the day, they have to go home and do the treatment.
Yeah.
And follow the protocol. So
tell us about your mind-body medicine course that you did. Kind of what initiated you taking that course? Where did you take that course? How long did it take? Would you recommend that?
It would, yes. So I got my training through the Center for Mind-Body Medicine. And the first class I was exposed to at them was called Food is Medicine, because when I first started this, I was thinking, all right, what are some other ways I can help people facilitate their habituation? And I know that there's things about inflammation. So maybe I need to learn about food, and maybe I need to learn about supplements, because I actually in college also worked at a natural food store where I was selling supplements. And so I was very interested in that anyway. And once I got there to the Food is Medicine course, which was a week long, I was with all different medical professionals and from all disciplines, and they did some nervous system regulation activities like shaking and dancing and things that I was like, what is happening here? But what I found out was these are people who are really, I think functional medicine is going to be the way of the future. I think people are going to be patient empowered. And that's what these people are all about. And so when I started learning about their other trainings, what mind-body medicine is teaching patients to be empowered enough to take charge of their health care, but also that healing happens in a regulated state. When we are in a defensive state, our body has a really hard time healing. And so they really believe that nervous system regulation and self-care is a very important part of any medical journey. And so I was in class. And so it's the Center for Mind-Body Medicine. It was founded by Jim Gordon. He is the psychiatrist who served under many administrations and in the DHS.
And anyone can take that class, right?
Anyone from any discipline can take that course. And I ended up going through the whole certification, which is a 2-year process. And it involves teaching and being observed and writing papers. And it's like having another master's.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure.
But but it's really enhanced everything I do as an audiologist.
Yeah.
So
I
neat.
definitely want to look into it.
I feel like it's a
Well,
part of
totally
training that's like
encourage you.
missing in a lot of us.
yeah,
And so I
exactly.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take a step away from your own practice and what you do, and let's talk about your involvement in the American Tinnitus Association, because I know you even stepped in as executive director
Mhm.
for a little while. So I know you're still involved in that a lot. But what did that experience teach you about where tinnitus care is heading and what the little areas that we might need to focus on are?
Yeah. Um, I would say what I learned as the interim executive director was when we get phone calls in from patients who are looking for an audiologist to help them or a provider, we don't have enough. We do not have enough. There would be sometimes somebody would call in from an area and I'd look on our map and I wouldn't have people within 200 miles who could
Yeah.
see this patient
Right.
effectively, at least that we knew of. So
Yeah.
please join us, join us, join us. If you're doing good tinnitus work,
Join, yeah.
join the ATA
Yeah.
and let us know what you're doing in your clinic so that we can get you the right referrals because we get calls
Yes.
every single day.
Mhm.
So that's one piece. The other thing that I learned is our scientific advisory committee is incredible.
It's
And
awesome.
we've been increasing the amount of grants that we're giving out.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
we've been
Mhm.
funding about $500,000 to $700,000 a year in seed grants, which seed grants are actually really cool. They're to help newer researchers get new ideas out there.
Mm.
And then once they can do proof of concept or they can get some initial data, then bigger studies can take them on. And
Mm.
so it kind of gives them a launch pad
Mm.
for getting more. But now that I know that they're looking at funding bigger projects and things now too, because we've been doing really well with fundraising under our new executive director, Patrick Lynch.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing.
we'll
Yeah,
be able
that
to,
is wonderful.
I think
yeah.
along the lines of that and seed grants and research, what would you say, what gives you the most hope with the future of tinnitus care? Where do you think we're going?
Well, I think that we're going to see more multifaceted approaches. Excuse me. I think we're going to see more things coming down with bimodal in
Mhm.
different modes. So
Mhm.
even the two bimodal products that are out right now, they work differently, right?
Mhm.
Susan
Mhm.
Shore's device works differently than the linear device,
Mhm.
and so I think we're going to see more people take an interest in looking at tinnitus as a multi-system phenomenon that
Mhm.
needs to be
Mhm.
addressed in multiple ways.
Mhm.
I love
I
that.
even
Um,
actually read when I was working on my retrospective study lit review, I read a study out of Egypt where they did um, the Brahma Pranayama breath with patients who have tinnitus. So if you're a yogi, this is the B
Mhm.
breath, which I think is great to talk about in this podcast with my, but so it's breathing in through the nose and then humming as they exhale in the long
Oh,
exhale.
I was going to
And
say, I don't know what that is. So cool.
yes,
yeah.
yes. So they do as
Mm.
they hum as
Mhm.
they exhaled, and they got some really nice results.
Interesting.
And I'm looking at it as I'm doing my lit review for my retrospective study that they're not only showing that this longer breath also
Mhm.
it activates the parasympathetic, but they were taking advantage of the Arnold's branch of the vagus nerve, which responds to the auditory system, the
Oh,
auditory range.
neat.
So I
Just
don't
a
know,
little
people are doing
addition.
some really cool things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just I was going to say that, like something right in front of us that
Yeah.
no one ever thought about that could make all the difference in the world to some people. So
Yeah.
Right.
that's
Yeah, and
wonderful.
for people who don't have access to expensive devices and
Yeah.
Right, right.
and
Because that's
even
one
hearing aids are
thing that
expensive.
I hear a
Yeah,
lot. It's too expensive, too expensive. I can't get help. And I know, most insurance doesn't pay for it. And
right.
so if we could empower, like you're saying, empower the patient to learn strategies that they
Other
can do on their
ways.
own,
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
with the active sound therapy, all the tools you need are on board.
right.
It's a breath,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, we do still have to provide auditory stimulation, but
yeah,
yeah, everything else is on board, cognitive
yeah,
and breath work.
yeah.
Love that.
So tell me about if you could change one thing about how tinnitus is understood or treated in the hearing healthcare world today, what would it be?
Okay, this is another one from when I worked at the ATA. Tinnitus isn't scary. I
Mm,
always say, and this is my fault too, because I have been a presenter on tinnitus for a while. And what do? We bring our hardest cases as a case
mm,
study, because
mhm,
I'm really proud that I worked through that really hard case.
Right.
And I want you guys to know how much work I did to get through that case.
mhm.
But the truth is, it scares other providers
Yeah,
into
totally.
joining the
Mhm.
club. And what
Yeah.
I'll tell you is, most of my patients are not that complex.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we can get through it in a few visits. Most of the time, as my retrospective is going to show, 10 weeks, 10
Mhm,
weeks. And most
And
people
with
are through
nine.
it. And even in the retrospective study, my longest patient was 26 weeks.
mhm,
So even that is only 6 months. So,
mhm, mhm.
um, so I
And I
would,
know that you
it's
said you
not
have
as,
a lot of
it's not
success.
scary.
Yeah, it's not scary. And you're very successful with your patients.
Mhm,
You don't have many that don't get some kind of relief from their tinnitus, which
mhm,
is really
Right,
encouraging.
mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Would you say, is there a certain patient story that just kind of comes to mind or that really resonates with you when you think about tinnitus care, or is it just kind of everybody you see every day?
It, well, and see, and that prompts me to actually tell you a story about a really hard client,
And here we go.
a really
Students
complex
also.
case,
Yeah.
right? And I certainly have plenty of those
Hmm.
where patients come in and it has impacted every aspect of their life, and they are distraught and not working. Maybe, there's all kinds of stories like that where we get to the other side and they're just out living their life again and
Hmm.
they're,
I
doing
love
great.
that.
Um, and those are really, really rewarding because there is a lot, I might have, there's just more appointments. You get really involved in their life.
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and you're so happy for them when they find their way.
Hmm.
But the vast majority of it is just seeing people make a quick shift.
Hmm.
And my favorite thing at work is when I get broken up with, when people say, I'm good, I don't need you
Hmm.
anymore. Like, oh,
It
Yeah.
teaches you resilience, like, in
Yeah.
your everyday life too, right?
right, right.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I love this conversation. Let's move on to the rapid fire.
Mhm.
You ready for that?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And I'm trying to think of what this might be. What is one word that describes you and why?
Well, I guess determined. I'm
Okay.
determined to look for answers, determined to share them with others. So I guess, but I'm pretty determined in my life. I'm a mountain biker. Got to be determined to keep falling off your bike.
Oh, wow.
So,
Keep
Yeah.
going.
yeah, keep
Mountain
going.
biking is, I'm sure, not easy. So you got to be
Yeah.
determined. I
Yeah.
would also say kind. You just seem like
Oh,
you're such a kind person and you feel that from you. And that's why, hopefully, maybe part of why your patients are so successful.
Yeah.
thank you. That's
Mm.
Kind
really.
heart.
What is one skill you would love to master overnight?
Um, I would like to be an engaging conversationalist. Sometimes I get
Oh,
into
yeah.
groups and I'm like, I
That's
don't
a
know
good
what to
one.
say, but I would love to be able to be
Yeah, the
engaging
art
and
of
learn, get
conversation.
more people. Yeah.
Yeah. I like
Oh,
that. That's a good
okay.
one. We haven't heard
Yeah,
that one
that is
yet. I like
it's
that.
and that's
Hmm.
a new one too. Well, we're
Hmm.
new all the time. We were
Yeah.
knife throwing the
Nice
last time.
throwing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That was a new one. Um,
yeah.
oh, this is a good one. So, what is one thing that you would tell your younger self?
Oh, I was just talking to my 21-year-old the other day, and I was telling him, you got to keep toggling between big picture and small picture, big picture,
Hmm.
and then focus, big picture, and
Yeah,
focus on the task but always taking a minute to not only back up and see what's ahead of you, but to turn around and see how far you've come.
Hmm.
And
I love that.
so,
Hmm.
that is great advice, Sarah. I love that
Yeah.
too.
That's good motherly advice, good life
Yes.
advice. I like
Yep.
that. Don't
and I
get too
wish I would have
fixated.
known it.
I
Yeah, you
know.
wish you,
It's good.
yep.
Where do you see hearing healthcare in 10 years?
Well, I was thinking about this one. I think there's going to be some automation. I do. I think there's going to be I was actually laughing at my sister about how the nurses in our nursing home are going to be robots. I hope not. I hope not. But I think that in healthcare, and I think in particularly audiology, what we've learned from OTC and all these other delivery models is that the human element is not going to go away. We are a communication profession, and we communicate with people. So I think that that human element will be there, but I think there's going to be some automation that's going to make some things,
hopefully easier.
Yeah, maybe easier,
hopefully more
quicker.
efficient.
Yeah, we can do a better job with it, maybe.
Right.
What is your coffee order or drink order that keeps you going?
I love a cafe meow, which is like a honey cinnamon latte.
Oh, yeah,
That's called a cafe meow.
Yes, no, not like a cat. Like miel is another language for honey.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's Spanish.
I would have ordered the cafe meow.
Yeah. Noelle's going to Starbucks to get the cafe meow.
I would be curious what that comes back as.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
It's worth a try, Noelle. What is one piece of wisdom you would pass along to the next generation of women in hearing healthcare?
Know your worth.
Know
your worth, and be as independent as you can. I don't know, private practice all the way.
Yeah. Love that. Love that.
Yeah, I like that. And what's a sound that makes you happy?
Actually, I love so when I get out of my car and I get my bike off my bike rack and I take those first few pedals into the woods, everything goes, and the trees come around you, and it's the most comforting sound. And then you hear birds and wind and creaking trees, but
what a good one. You just kind of let it all go and be one with your bike. I love that. When you look at our profession as a whole, what is one thing our profession could do better?
I'm sure this has been said on so many, because I think it's just true, but we've got to be better advocates for ourselves and for our profession.
Yeah.
And for each other.
Yeah.
And for each other
together as a profession.
Yes. Well, I'm all about the bees over here. So which bee fits you best? Be kind, be brave, be curious, be bold, or be happy?
I think I'm gonna be curious.
Okay.
Yeah, that was going to be my word when I was thinking about your word, be curious. I like that. Okay, well, let's move on to our Be Curious segment. So the couple things we're going to highlight is one, the American Tinnitus Association. If you are not a member, if you don't have your location on there, please join the ATA. Please talk about the ATA with your patients, spread those resources. Such good information on there. Look at it. So many good resources. And then also Dr. Sara, if you go to her website, hearwellnorth.com, she has upcoming trainings. And so if you want to learn from her, this is where you can follow along, and she's going to post some trainings and exciting things she has on the horizon.
And it's well worth it. Learn a lot.
So Sara, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience and insights. Your work is truly helping move tinnitus care forward and giving hope to so many patients. To our listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sound Sisters, the Hearing Diaries, and we will see you all soon.
See you next time on the Sound Sisters.
Thank you.
Thanks.